The night air was heavy with the smell of gasoline and rain-soaked asphalt as a lone woman stood beside her car, filling the tank under the flickering light of a nearly empty gas station. It was late, close to midnight, and the highway that cut through the small town was almost silent except for the hum of distant traffic. She wore a dark leather jacket, her hair tied back neatly, eyes scanning her surroundings without appearing to. The attendant behind the counter glanced up occasionally, feeling uneasy but not sure why. Then, headlights cut through the darkness, a beat-up pickup truck screeched into the lot, music blaring. 3 young men jumped out, laughing loudly, already half drunk. They noticed her instantly. The tallest one, wearing a baseball cap turned backward, nudged his friend and muttered something that made them all snicker. They sauntered over, reeking of alcohol and arrogance. "Hey there, sweetheart," the tall one called out, leaning on the pump next to hers. "You shouldn't be out here alone this late. Dangerous world, you know." She didn't respond, just glanced at him briefly, then back to the pump. Her silence made him bolder. "You deaf or just rude?" he sneered. His friend, smaller and twitchy, laughed too loudly, while the third hung back, uncertain but unwilling to look weak in front of his buddies. The gas station clerk shifted behind the glass window, hand inching toward the phone. Something about the woman's calmness felt off, too deliberate, too controlled. She looked like someone who'd seen worse than drunken taunts. The tall man stepped closer, invading her space. "Come on, don't be shy," he said, brushing a strand of her hair back. She caught his wrist mid-motion, her grip like steel. "Don't touch me," she said evenly, eyes locking on his. For a moment, something in her tone made him hesitate, but his pride kicked in, and he pulled back with a forced laugh. "Whoa, chill. Didn't mean anything by it. Just trying to be friendly." The smallest one circled around to her other side. "Maybe she's got a boyfriend waiting," he said mockingly. "Or maybe she's got a secret." He reached toward her bag on the hood of her car. Her voice cut through the air, calm but sharp as glass. "You really don't want to do that." The way she said it stopped him cold. Her eyes were steady, unblinking, almost predatory. For the first time, the laughter faded. The clerk, watching from inside, finally picked up the phone and dialed 911, whispering that there was trouble at the station. The woman finished fueling, set the nozzle back, and turned toward the men. "You're done here," she said softly. "Get back in your truck." Her tone wasn't pleading, it was an order, clear and practiced. The tall one scoffed, trying to reclaim his dominance. "Or what? You gonna call the cops?" He took another step forward, but stopped when he caught sight of something just below her hairline. A small, intricate tattoo shaped like an eagle's wing, inked behind her ear. He frowned, unsure why it seemed familiar. The tension thickened as sirens began to wail faintly in the distance. The men froze. The woman didn't move. She simply watched them, her calm now unsettling. When the police arrived, red and blue lights flashing across the wet pavement, the 3 men raised their hands instinctively. "Officers, we didn't do anything," the tall one protested. But before they could be questioned, the woman stepped forward. "It's all right," she said, pulling something from her jacket pocket. The officers stopped in their tracks as she flipped open a small black wallet, revealing a badge. "Special Agent Rachel Cross, FBI. I've got this handled." The officers exchanged startled looks. The bullies gawked, realizing all at once that the woman they'd just been mocking and threatening wasn't some random traveler, she was law enforcement. Rachel turned back toward them, her expression unreadable. "You 3 picked the wrong gas station tonight," she said. "You've just interfered with an active federal investigation." One of the men stammered, "Wait, what? We didn't mean," but she cut him off with a raised hand. "Save it. You're lucky you're still standing." The officers hesitated, unsure whether to intervene, but Rachel nodded to them. "They're harmless for now. I'll debrief you shortly." The tallest bully's bravado melted completely. His voice cracked as he asked, "You're really FBI?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Undercover. Until 5 minutes ago, that was supposed to stay that way." She looked at the clerk through the window. "You did the right thing calling it in." Then she faced the men again. "Now, you're going to tell me everything you've seen around here tonight. Every strange car, every person who's stopped by this station after dark. Because whether you realize it or not, you've been standing in the middle of a federal sting." The smallest one blinked, panic rising. A sting for what? She studied him for a long moment before answering. Drug trafficking. Someone's been using this station as a drop point. And now, thanks to your little show, they'll know I'm onto them. The realization hit them hard. What started as drunken amusement had turned into something deadly serious. Rachel moved past them to her car, opened the door, and grabbed a folder from the passenger seat. Inside were photographs, names, times, and dates. The officers glanced over her shoulder, their faces tightening as they understood the scale of what she'd uncovered. The bullies stood frozen, caught between guilt and fear. Rachel turned back once more, her voice low but commanding. "You're not walking away yet. I might have a use for you." The rain began again, light but steady, washing over the cracked pavement as the flashing lights painted the scene in red and blue. The gas station, once just a pit stop, had become the center of something much larger. The three men exchanged uneasy glances, realizing they'd stepped into a world far beyond their understanding. And Agent Rachel Cross, calm and collected, simply holstered her badge and said, "Let's get to work." Again, as if the chaos of the night before had never happened. But parked off to the side, in a nondescript black SUV, Agent Rachel Cross sat with a cup of coffee growing cold in her hand. The three young men she'd confronted, Derek, Tyler, and Mason, stood outside awkwardly, avoiding each other's eyes. None of them had slept much. They'd spent half the night answering questions from local police, and now they were staring at the federal agent who had just turned their lives upside down. Rachel stepped out of the vehicle, closing the door softly. "You boys have two options," she said, her tone brisk but calm. "You can pretend last night never happened, in which case I make one phone call and you're all facing charges for obstruction, harassment, and interfering with a federal operation. Or you can help me fix what you broke." Derek, the tall one, scoffed. "Help you? Lady, we're not criminals." Rachel arched an eyebrow. "Not yet. But you've got potential." Mason, the youngest, looked terrified. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. "What do you even want from us?" he asked. Rachel gestured toward the gas station. "You said you hang around here a lot. You see the people who come and go. You know the regulars. Someone's been using this place to pass shipments, small bags hidden in tire compartments, false fuel cans, you name it. I've been tracking this route for months. The people behind it aren't amateurs. They're connected to a larger network that's killed before." Her voice softened slightly. "Last night you could have gotten hurt. Or worse. So let's make sure that doesn't happen again." Inside her SUV, she opened a file folder on the dashboard. Photographs, maps, and surveillance stills spilled out. The men leaned closer despite themselves. "This is the operation," Rachel continued. "I've been tracing a supply line running through these back roads. Whoever's running it uses young men like you, locals, easy to manipulate, too scared to ask questions. You probably know some of them." Mason swallowed hard. "We might have seen a guy. Drives a white van, comes in after midnight. Always pays cash." Rachel's eyes sharpened. "That's a start. I need names, plates, anything." She looked directly at Derek. "You talk tough. Let's see if you can follow orders." Over the next few hours, Rachel briefed them like new recruits. She showed them how to recognize coded transactions, where to position their phones for audio pickup, and how to stay out of sight. None of it felt real to them. One day they were harassing a stranger, the next, they were working under the supervision of the FBI. But as Rachel spoke, something in her voice, controlled, but edged with personal pain, hinted at a deeper motive. When Tyler finally asked why she cared so much, Rachel hesitated. "Because this network took my brother," she said quietly. "He was 16. Wrong place, wrong time. They used him to move product, then cut him loose. Literally." Her eyes met theirs, steady but tired. "So if you think I'm doing this for a paycheck, you're mistaken." That confession changed the air between them. For the first time, the three men saw her not just as an authority figure but as a person haunted by something she couldn't undo. They nodded, solemn now, and agreed to help. Rachel nodded once, satisfied. "Good. We're setting the trap tonight." By evening, the plan was in motion. Rachel sat inside the SUV again, monitoring live audio feeds from small devices she'd hidden around the gas station. The three men acted like they were hanging out, leaning on their truck, pretending to drink sodas. Tyler's hands shook slightly as he held his phone, transmitting the live feed. Relax. Rachel's voice came through their earpieces. You're doing fine. Just stick to the script. A white van rolled into the station, just as Mason had predicted. The driver wore sunglasses even though it was dark. He filled up quickly, glancing around, then opened the back door of the van. Tyler caught sight of a black duffel bag being passed to another car that had just pulled in. We've got movement, he whispered. Rachel adjusted her headset. Stay back. I need eyes on the exchange, but don't engage. Derek, however, wasn't listening. We can grab him now, he muttered, already stepping forward. Rachel's voice hardened. Derek, stop. That's an order. But it was too late. The driver saw movement and froze. For a split second, the whole world held its breath. Then the van's engine roared, tires screeching as it sped out of the lot. Rachel cursed under her breath, slamming the door of the SUV and peeling out after it. The men watched in disbelief as flashing headlights vanished into the distance. What do we do now? Mason asked. We wait, Tyler said, his voice shaking. But deep down, he knew the operation had gone bad. Rachel chased the van for several miles, keeping her distance. Through her headset, she could still hear the men at the gas station arguing. I told you not to move, she snapped over the radio. Derek's angry voice shot back, you were taking too long. You think this is a game? She barked. But then the signal cut. Static filled her earpiece. She glanced at her tracker screen, and saw something that made her stomach drop. A second van had appeared on the road behind her. Damn it, she muttered. They weren't running, they were baiting her. Back at the gas station, Tyler's phone buzzed. A text message popped up from an unknown number. We know who she is. Tell her to stop. His face went pale. He knew instantly what it meant. Someone had warned the cartel. And someone among them had made contact. Mason looked over his shoulder nervously. What's wrong? Tyler didn't answer. His throat was dry. Rachel's voice crackled back on the line. Boys, listen carefully. Someone tipped them off. That van was a decoy. They know I'm here. Derek cursed under his breath. You think it was us? I don't think, she said coldly. I know one of you talked. And I will find out who. Her SUV swerved down a side road, engine growling. She switched to a secure channel and called for backup, but the response was slow, too slow. The cartel had eyes everywhere. Back at the station, the lights flickered again, and the men suddenly felt very small beneath the wide, empty sky. Tyler's guilt was eating him alive. He had made a mistake, one text, one moment of fear, and now an entire federal operation was collapsing around them. Rachel's last transmission came through in a whisper, they've turned the trap on us.